Welcome one and all to another day here at the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola, but much more important than that, she is Adrienne Lawrence. Adrienne, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's wild right now with the news cycle, but it's good.
Yeah, was it 2 days ago? I like having both Trump being found liable when it comes to the sexual assault claims and George Santos having the charges against him. I mean, that is about as big of a singular news day as we've had in quite some time. Maybe Tucker Carlson being fired, maybe Russia invading Ukraine. I don't know what else in the last year or so could compare with that. It's been exciting.
Seriously, it has been something special. I don't know if we can handle anymore.
I think we're good. If everyone else could just calm down for a little bit. Well, Fannie Willis, if you want to make some news, I guess I'd be okay with that. But other than that, or maybe the Dark Crystal being brought back for a second season, maybe on Amazon Prime. Other than that, I'm good without any more news. And with that said, we do have a lot that we're gonna be talking about. Did you know, most of you probably don't know, but I'm here to tell you that CNN had a town hall with Trump last night. Oh, we're gonna be talking about it, everyone. Because a lot of people who think they know everything said it was gonna be a disaster. And we're proven right. Anyway, we're gonna get to that. We've got new updates on George Santos and corruption when it comes to medication abortion, and I don't know, there's probably some AI in there. Fox is being sued. Again, this is a separate lawsuit against Fox. There's a lot going on. And in anticipation of all of that, you'd probably be well served to go hit that like button right now. Let people know that we're live, they can join us, get involved in the conversation. And as part of that conversation, if you want to send us comments, tweets, or super chats, Adrienne and I will respond during our social breaks. And you might even get yourself a Blue Apron gift card for $100. I just made a cheesy tomato gnocchi dish last night through them. By the way, I purchased my own Blue Apron. I don't get it free or whatever, which would be really nice. Blue Apron, give me a call. I've just been purchasing it for a long time and it's delicious. I really do enjoy it. And my wife and I have a lot of fun cooking regularly thanks to our subscription. And you can get a taste of that by sending a good comment. Anyway, with all that said, Adrienne, are you ready to get into the aforementioned big news?
I am ready.
Okay, I too am ready. Oh God, how do we want to do this? I want to prepare everyone in the audience, by the way. You are going to see quite a bit of Donald Trump and what happened at the town hall. Understand that I consider myself to have been choosy. So just bear that in mind going forward. The whole thing is bonkers. Everybody knew that Caitlin Collins was gonna have her hands full trying to have a town hall with Donald Trump that is not just an avenue for him to spread the big lie and other conspiracy theories. So we were all wondering, how long is she gonna be able to hold the reins and keep him under control? Well, here's the first question.
President Trump, thank you for your time here tonight. We got a great crowd here. Your first term ended with a deadly riot at the Capitol, and you still have not publicly acknowledged the 2020 election results. Why should Americans put you back in the White House?
Because we did fantastically. We got 12 million more votes than we had in, as you know, in 2016. I actually say we did far better in that election. Got the most that anybody's ever gotten as a sitting president of the United States. I think that when you look at that result and when you look at what happened during that election, unless you're a very stupid person, you see what happens. A lot of the people in this audience, and maybe a couple that don't, but most people understand what happened. That was a rigged election, and it's a shame that we had to go through it. It's very bad for our country. All over the world, they looked at it. And they saw exactly what everyone else saw. You look, even if you just look recently with the 51 intelligence agents, that made a 16-point difference. If you look at the FBI, if you look at the FBI and Twitter, they call it Twitter files, made a big difference. If you look at
Mr. President, back to what you just said there, though, it was not a rigged election. It was not a stolen election. You and your supporters lost more than 60 court cases.
So that one clip right there, I think, demonstrates the entire town hall. Let's keep it real. Donald Trump said the same lies, the same conspiracy theories that he always does. Despite the fact that they're not convincing arguments, everyone everywhere looked at it and they all think it was rigged is simply not true. It's also vague for a reason. He hasn't gotten any better at that. Caitlin Collins actually was prepared to rebut quite a bit of his lies. She couldn't keep up with all of them, but it was pointless, because he would just reiterate them. He's never going to admit that he's lying. And more importantly, perhaps than all of that, you saw when he said only a stupid person would think it wasn't rigged, which I guess includes those 60 judges. the crowd laughed uproariously, because that was a wild card that I had not been prepared for when it came to this thing. I expected that he would lie. I expected, perhaps even more so than ended up being the case, that Caitlin Collins wouldn't be prepared for this. What I did not expect was that CNN was going to get, I think, 400 Trump fans and just fill the room with them, so that every lie that he told, before it could be rebutted, before it could be corrected, would immediately receive applause and cheering and vicious laughter, as we'll get to. And so that was the experience you had as a viewer, was him saying insane things, and then you receiving the, I guess, like the social proof that everyone agrees with him. Everyone thinks that he's awesome. It's the same as adding a laugh track to a sitcom. It's to accomplish a goal. We now are left to wonder, what goal was CNN trying to accomplish by packing the room with Trump fans? Adrienne, what do you think?
Okay, so I definitely think that CNN got exactly what it wanted, which is an opportunity to uplift Donald Trump. You know, the fact is that with their new leadership, they have moved to the right, and they are essentially taking a lot of their moderate viewers with them. But also what they really expected last night was for it to be an absolute utter clown show, because that's exactly what Trump is, a walking carnival. And they got that in terms of the applause from the audience. And the reason I would say they were applauding was not necessarily because of what he said, but because of how he said it, which is in an insulting and completely and totally unprofessional, bullying tone. It's like watching The Office, where you're thinking, this isn't something that happens in real life. This is completely unacceptable, and that's why it's funny. And that is why Donald Trump gets the responses that he gets, is because you're like, I cannot believe someone who is supposed to be of a certain ilk is acting this way, but he does it, and he does it unapologetically, and that's what CNN was looking for.
Yeah, I think, look, they definitely got exactly what they wanted. They got a thing that would draw viewers. Damn what it does to democracy. They don't care. And when I say they, I mean like the leadership or whatever. I have no idea if Caitlin Collins is involved in any of this or whatever. But they got what they wanted. They want to have a bunch of events like this that draw ratings. I think we can all agree on that. That's the base level for this conversation. But beyond that, they want him to be president. Like, is that even controversial to say at this point? They want him to be president. First of all, every one of the rich a-holes that runs CNN is going to benefit financially from another term of Donald Trump. He'll cut his taxes or whatever. It'll have devastating effects on all of us, but they don't care about us. That's very clear. And then they'll have 4 years of that event. Every day will be that Trump town hall, and they can bring people on the air to be like, this is unacceptable. This shouldn't be normalized, as we normalize it in the lead up to the election. That's what all of this is about. Again, no idea about Caitlin Collins or any of the hosts on CNN or whatever, but definitely this is, I think, an admittance that they wanted to be president. And while asking about some of the most important topics, what the result of the election was, January 6th, he said the rioters were there with love in their heart. It was a beautiful day. He lied blatantly about when he finally begrudgingly released his video telling them to go home. He pretended that it was 3 hours earlier than it was. It's the most obvious lie ever, and every single one of his fans will accept it. You'll never get through to them. Here's a little bit more on that video.
I made a video right outside the Oval Office in the Rose Garden, and I'm very proud of that video. I didn't have a script. I don't need scripts like a certain person that's in there right now.
The video, it came out much later after they had already attacked the Capitol.
It was a great video. And it was a beautiful video, and it said, I mean, I don't want to read it all, but you have to go home now. We have to have peace.
Yeah, first of all, it was definitely scripted. What the hell are you talking about? All of your speeches are scripted. That's what makes them speeches. Yes, Joe Biden's are too, so are yours. So is every Republican. Again, like, the bar is buried beneath the level of the surface of the earth for him to get applause from these people. You saw them do the crowd reaction to him saying that Joe Biden reads off of a script or whatever. And there was that, I'm going to guess, president of the college Republicans of some white university. Like, oh yes, that's a great point. Biden does use a script. This is what CNN made the choice to fill the room with those people, not to like fill it with a mixture of some people who are independent, some people are Democrats, some people are Republicans, just like the most MAGA'd out people that you would ever see, as he tells obvious lies about what happened on January 6th, what he did or did not do to stop it. And this is just the first of many, I'm sure, Adrienne. We're gonna get a lot more of this.
No, and I couldn't agree more. And the thing is I was pushing people to kind of boycott this for CNN because, you wanted to hit their ratings by virtue of the fact that you do not want other media outlets to continue to sensationalize this man's shenanigans, and also to give him a platform because it is not healthy for the nation. And as I understand, the ratings were not that great for CNN, which would be great and beneficial. But also, I will note, yeah, well, at least I saw something online saying that it did not go as well as they wanted. But even though it seems that the president or CEO Chris Licht, he seemed to be very pleased with the outcome. But I do know that Caitlin Collins was a host at the Daily Wire and a reporter, or Daily Caller, the reporter before then. So it kind of makes me wonder if she was completely okay with doing this.
Yeah, maybe. By the way, being reminded, Yonek points out, I'd forgotten they had the other takes of his speech. They had been recorded. He was trying to get through it and he couldn't, which is weird that you have to keep restarting on something that wasn't scripted. So weird how that works out. Also, in that very beautiful video, he said that the people who were doing everything they could to beat those cops to death with their bare hands, with flagpoles, with all that, were beautiful people. He loves them and they're very special. Yeah, good boy. This is the country we live in.
By the way, let me tell you real quick. I just saw the post. I was wrong. CNN's town hall with Donald Trump averaged 3.1 million total viewers. The event outrated Fox and MSNBC as expected, but these are not 2015 and 2016 level numbers for Trump, not even close. That's Brian Stelter.
Okay, interesting. They probably still see it as a win because I don't imagine they ever get close to that number, but good point that it's not as popular as it was. Now, we've got a couple of other big topics to get to. I want to start with an important one, though, just to remind people of the stakes going forward for 2024. Here is Donald Trump being asked about whether he's going to accept the results of the next election if he does run again.
The results of the 2024 election.
Yeah, if I think it's an honest election, absolutely I would.
Will you commit to accepting the results of the election regardless of the outcome?
You want me to answer it again? If I think it's an honest election, I would be honored to.
Okay, so no one, I hope, is surprised by that answer, right? We all knew that that's what his position was going to be. That was exactly what his position was going into 2020. And it doesn't mean anything. He's not going to accept it unless he wins. That's literally all it means. And that's all it needs to mean because that's all his base wants him to do. They don't care whether it's actually rigged against him or not. They only care if he wins or not. He, as a result of losing all of those court cases, as a result of the failure of his coup attempt, if you believed, perhaps naively, perhaps optimistically, that there has been any improvement in the likelihood that something like this would happen again, he's reminding you, no. If he can steal the election, he will do it. And I don't mean by rigging the machines or whatever. I mean by literally storming the Capitol and murdering our politicians. If he can do that successfully, he will do that. If the people that they've put in charge of county elections boards or secretaries of state can, say Houston's votes don't count anymore, or something happened in Atlanta, I guess we have to redo the election, they will do that. Whatever your worst nightmare is of the way that the 2024 election will go, what will happen afterward if Biden legitimately wins is likely to happen, so prepare yourself. Adrienne, what do you think?
I think that we are headed for more trouble. We have the opportunity to shut down Donald Trump, to use the Constitution to our advantage and to hold him accountable. But unfortunately, it seems the Republican, the GOP did not have the collective integrity and courage to actually do what needed to be done. And now we are finding ourselves in a similar position. And it becomes a question of are we actually going to stop this? We've seen who this person is, and yet we continue to enable it and allow it. And it's not just members of the GOP in terms of legislature, as we see now, also very much members of the media and those in positions of power. And it really speaks to the fact that nobody cares necessarily about the American people. It's more about capitalism and ensuring that they can drive those ratings and ensuring that they can continue to capitalize on the controversy while the rest of us are just sitting here dying. Basically.
Yeah, or waiting to die. At the very least, terrified of what's gonna happen. There's probably a lot of cases where I would want her to do something else, Caitlin Collins or something. But I do sort of feel for her in that moment. He says, I'll accept it if it's honest. She reiterates the question. He says it again. Look, maybe there are more clever, more intelligent people than me that could come up with something she could say in that moment that would matter in literally any way, but I don't know what it is. He's gonna say that because again, it isn't about him. It's about what he is allowed to do and whether there's any consequences for it from the only people that matter, which is his base. And there are other politicians, even Republican politicians, that if you point out that they're being wildly hypocritical or whatever, they will be laughed at perhaps, or their base will turn on them. There's nothing he can say that's going to do that. They know how ridiculous what he's saying is. They know what it means. They know that it means that if he loses, he will never accept it. But that's what they want. So what is a reporter, even if we were to forget about her past with the right wing and everything, and just assume that she is a perfect, pure, like avatar of journalistic ethics, what is she supposed to do in that moment?
I don't know. I think that is a good question. The thing is, I still have issues with her even putting herself in that position. I wouldn't want to be a part of enabling that man in any way, knowing that what he stands for is insanely problematic to our democracy. And so empowering that by giving him a platform. Plus, there were also times last night where it was clear she was egging him on in ways of which, she didn't have to say that. She did not have to, goad him, so to speak, yet she did because she knew he would lash back out. I think it was when they were having that tussle back and forth and she's like, well, that's why I asked the question or something like that. It's like, I think we've all dealt with toddlers at a certain point in time. You don't have to tit for tat with it. And she did. And I'm just like, that's completely and totally unnecessary. But she was able to get that you're a nasty girl, a nasty woman comment from it. And that's what they were looking for, those shocking moments as opposed to actually holding leaders accountable and not giving them platforms when they are fascist.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, like it's one thing to not be able to rebut it when it happens. It's another to enable it happening in the first place. So it's a great point. You brought up though the nasty woman thing that came as a result of a question about him stealing the classified documents. So why don't we jump ahead to video 5 and we'll play that interaction.
Why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's the answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Can you answer why you held on to the documents?
I was negotiating and we were talking to NARA.
That was when he called her a nasty woman, the cheering and clapping and all that. I've been rewatching some Married with Children, and like when Al would come through the door, you can't speak for a few seconds because that's the exact same reaction. It's just like this. Like, let me ask you a hypothetical. Maybe this is going too far. If he had just slapped her as hard as he could right there, do we think that his audience, like I'm not saying across the country, I'm just saying right in that room, would have turned at him? Or would they have cheered? Would they have laughed? Would they have clapped? I don't like what my gut is telling me in response to that. But what do you think? I don't know.
Seriously, if anything, I think you would have heard people gasp, but then I think you would have heard them giggle. I think at the end of the day, they would have given him a pass, but we just saw what in Manhattan federal court that they were unwilling to give him a pass. So who knows what is changing, but that's again, not his audience. But again, CNN really did set this up for this exact purpose so that we could see this carnival go on with this clown and not really treat it as serious as it is, which is this man who could be the GOP frontrunner and is incredibly dangerous to our society, incredibly.
Yeah, it just like they showed the crowd many times. Those people on average despise women to a degree that is just truly amazing. But it's obviously not contained in just the right. There are plenty of people in the center or on the left who have varying levels of internalized or just explicit outright misogyny. But those people, like, and including not just the conservative guys in the audience, there's just they just want to see people be vicious to women. That's what they want, and it's gross. Anyway, we had perhaps an even worse example of them being given what they want. This town hall, of course, happened less than 24 hours after Donald Trump was found guilty in the civil rape lawsuit from Adrienne Carroll, stating that he had sexually abused her. He's gonna have to pay literally millions of dollars to her. This would, for any other politician, any other person, be one of the most devastating imaginable developments. It had no effect whatsoever on the reception that his base gave him. And in fact, when he decided to speak about that case, defaming E. Jean Carroll in the exact same way that he was just ordered to pay millions of dollars over, I want you to listen to the reaction that he got for that.
This woman, I don't know her. I never met her. I have no idea who she is. I had a picture taken years ago with her and her husband, nice guy, John Johnson. He was a newscaster, very nice man. She called him an ape. Happens to be African American. Called him an ape. The judge wouldn't allow us to put that in. Her dog or her cat was named Vagina. The judge wouldn't allow to put that in. All of these things, but with her, they could put in anything. Access,
this
Hollywood.
This was a jury of 9 people who found you liable of sexual abuse. Do you think that will deter women from voting for you?
No, I don't think so, because I think the whole thing, just so you understand, ready? I never met this woman. I never saw this woman. This woman said, I met her at the front door of Bergdorf Goodman, which I rarely go into other than for a couple of charities. I met her in the front door. She was about 60 years old, and this is like 22, 23 years ago. I met her in the front door of Bergdorf Goodman. I was immediately attracted to her, and she was immediately attracted to me. And we had this great chemistry. We're walking into a crowded department store. We had this great chemistry, and a few minutes later, we end up in a room, a dressing room of Bergdorf Goodman, right near the cash register. And then she found out there were locks on the door, so she said, I found one that was open. She found one. She learned this at trial. She found one that was open. What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings them up, and within minutes, you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room, okay? I don't know if she was married then or not. John Johnson, I feel sorry for you, John Johnson.
Mr. President.
Yeah, that was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen at a town hall like this. He gave a mocking, like fake, he was lying about portions of that, of what happened. He was already found guilty to have done. And the people giggled and laughed. You saw in one of those shots, there was a woman who was laughing so hard that she had to cover her face because she was laughing so much at the way that he was once again attacking the woman who has now been at least shown by a civil court to have proved that he did these things. And they absolutely loved it, Adrienne, all of them. He wasn't getting booed. I did not hear a single boo for any of the things that he said there. Not from a man, not from a woman, not from a Democrat, if they were allowed in at all, not from a MAGA person. They all loved it. They thought it was the most funny stuff that they've heard all week. What do you think?
I really think that these people are detestable, but I also have to wonder, are they truly reflective of his base, or how did CNN choose its audience? Did they go out and ask people via questionnaire or survey, or were they paying people to do this, to sit in the audience? I really don't know what was going on, but I know that, again, this was supposed to be news. This was supposed to be media. It's supposed to be objective, and it clearly wasn't. They set up this situation to be like this. This is gross.
100% gross. And also, like, he really does think that he's got a great defense on his hands. He's not sure enough about it to actually testify, because he didn't. He ran away. But he believes her cat was named Vagina, and she used a racial slur. And those two things mean that she could not have been raped, because that's how reality works, I suppose. And you can't hear that at the trial. But what you can hear, and he even cited it, is the Access Hollywood tape, which is not about the name of his pet. It's not about the many times he's used racial slurs in his life. It's about him bragging about sexually assaulting people. Can you see a bit of a difference as to which one is more applicable to a trial for rape? But anyway, yeah, it's just, the people are gross. They're just utterly gross. Like, there is almost nothing more core to being on the left side of the spectrum than empathy and compassion. It's what drives a lot of your other values, which drive the policies that you want. But man, sometimes these people strain the ability to empathize, for them individually at the very least, if not as a group, when they are just so gross. But anyway, look, I don't know how much more of this we have time to get into. I think we're gonna go to the reactions. He lied about, just assume everything else. We can't play all the tapes. I can't read all the quotes. He lied about the content of the crowd that attacked on January 6th. He lied about abortion. He refused to admit that Vladimir Putin has committed war crimes. It's indisputable, but he's not going to say it. He said that if we defaulted on the national debt, it would be just a bad week or a bad day. They roll the dice on that. He lied about his call with Brad Raffensperger. We've all heard it. He lied about what he said. Every single person in that room has heard it. They didn't care that he lied. They loved that he lied. Let's see. He said that we should default on the debt, even though he had previously said that debt ceiling negotiations should never be used. That was when he was president. Now he's not, so he gets to flip on it. He joked about that. The crowd knew that he was joking about that it was obvious hypocrisy, and they loved it because they don't care about any of this. He refused to say whether he thinks that Ukraine or Russia should win the war. It's all the same to him. What's the difference, I suppose? And it's just like one thing after another. Again, look, they can have him on, they're allowed to. They're a news network, they can do whatever they want. But I think that people, to the extent that they had expectations for or faith in CNN, like if this does not affect your view of that organization, I don't know what to tell you at this point. And we're gonna get to some of the internal reactions in just a sec, Adrienne, but any other thoughts about anything that was actually said during it?
No, I think it was nothing that we didn't expect already. And again, shame on CNN for doing this, but you can't really shame an entity that is doing exactly what you expect them to do.
Yeah, all of them are doing, whether it's the host, whether it's Trump, whether it's CNN, exactly what will get them money and fame, notoriety, whatever. They're doing that. Okay, I wanna come now to how people have responded to it. We're gonna start off though with video 8. Whenever you're ready, we can just launch directly into that.
I know you said earlier that you will not comment on the platforming of such atrocious disinformation, but I would. I think it was a profoundly irresponsible decision. I don't think that I would be doing my job if I did not say that. And what we saw tonight was a series of extremely irresponsible decisions that put a sexual abuse victim at risk, that put that person at risk in front of a national audience, and I could not have disagreed with it more. It was shameful.
I think that in that video, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez represents, I would guess, the majority opinion on CNN's decision to have Trump on to do exactly what he did. They knew he would do it. They gave him a venue to do it. They stacked the venue with his supporters in a way that they would never do for any other politician. I don't remember if it was CNN or MSNBC, but back in the 2016 election, Bernie Sanders had a town hall. And they brought in a ton of people to talk about the horrors of communism against him. You didn't see anything like that from this town hall, I noticed. But anyway, as much as I love that AOC is pointing out that this was a terrible idea, if you have any hope that the fact that people are aghast at this is gonna change CNN's view, not a chance in hell. We already know that on a network-wide editorial call, Chris Licht, one of the heads of CNN, congratulated Caitlin Collins on a masterful performance. Said, we all know covering Donald Trump is messy and tricky, and it will continue to be messy and tricky, but it's our job. I absolutely unequivocally believe America was served very well by what we did last night. People woke up and they know what the stakes are in this election in a way that they didn't the day before. And if someone was gonna ask tough questions and have that messy conversation, it damn well should be on CNN so that we can reap the money. I added that last part, but that was the subtext. While we all may have been uncomfortable hearing people clapping, that was also an important part of the story, because the people in that audience represent a large swath of America. And the mistake the media made in the past is ignoring that those people exist, just like you cannot ignore that President Trump exists. I will give him like partial credit on that last point. It is good to be reminded of how absolutely gross his base is, perhaps. The idea that we needed CNN to give him an audience of millions to lie about the election, lie about the woman he sexually assaulted, because we needed to be reminded of the stakes, go all of the way to hell. What the hell are you talking about? There is not a person in America that doesn't know what the stakes are in this election. We don't need you to conveniently, while making money, remind us of them. Adrienne,
Yeah, it seems that everything Chris Licht is giving here is really just giving away the fact that CNN really just wants to join the right-wing circuit and uplift it and trying to justify it with these purportedly objective journalistic takes. And that's not who CNN is anymore. And we're gonna continue to see shifts in their programming and slanted viewpoints. I think they're gonna end up being more like Fox News at the end of the day. And it's unfortunate, but again, as you pointed out, that's where the money is.
Yeah, in a reasonable country, CNN would be the kind of embarrassing right-wing news station. And that would be the extent of it. That would be too far for most people. Instead, that's just the beginning of the spectrum of mainstream media. Anyway, okay, let's see. You know who else thought that this was a great event? Oh, what do you know? Trump did. His campaign told Jason Miller, I should say, told Dylan Byers, it was fantastic. Keep in mind, many CNN viewers haven't seen him talk about his policy views on saving America in quite a while. Oh yes, that's what he talked about, his policy views. But he is right, a lot of CNN viewers probably haven't watched a Trump rally before, and so CNN gave them the ability to do that. It was on a town hall. I think it literally wasn't a town hall. They had a couple of questions from the audience. It was a rally. They gave him a rally. That's what they did. Now, a few network executives sent in anonymous comments. One said having people applaud those sexual abuse comments definitely made me question my allegiance to this network, which I guess the allegiance continues because it's still anonymous. Anyway, one former CNN executive says it was an unmitigated disaster. The audience was like a Trump rally. Caitlyn had no support in the room. They were mocking her. And a third TV industry insider said Chris Licht gave Trump a rally. Yeah, that's what it was. And what do we think, Adrienne? A month until the next one, maybe, like at the longest. 6 of them this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I could definitely see CNN hosting more of it. Again, I expect more right-wing slanted news coverage from them. I'm just wondering if right now also what they're trying to do is pick up the Fox News viewers who left Fox News because of Tucker Carlson's departure. Either way, it's not going to work out well for them in the end, but it will show to be profitable, I'm sure, at a certain point in time. But still, I can't see this actually going to be anything fruitful. CNN had really built a brand on being right kind of in the center and being more of a moderate. And so I just don't think that individuals are gonna trust CNN no matter how many Donald Trumps they put out there to act up.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also I think, look, they wanna get, I agree that they wanna get some of those Tucker Carlson viewers, but I know those viewers have been told not to trust CNN for like the last 10 years by Tucker Carlson. That just seems like that's gonna be a really hard play. Anyway, with that said, we are going way over. Apologies, it's big news. We're gonna take a break, be back with more. Okay, everyone, let's see what is going on out there in the audience. We're gonna start off with Twitch today. SX Toy Salesman 94 just gifted a sub. Thank you for that, very nice of you. Yewood Max says that's the problem. They should never have hosted the town hall to give him a platform because there's no possible response that would be appropriate for the venue and the situation. He's a dangerous sociopath that threatened our entire system of government, and we're just moving along like that's legitimate. Yeah, if they wanted to remind people the stakes, they could do critical reporting with their 24-hour news channel and staff of thousands. They don't have to let him repeat the lies he's already said. Hell, you could just package the last time he told the lies and then respond to them in a reasonable, accurate fashion. Because they're all the same lies. He didn't say anything new last night. He just said the same terrible things. Anyway, A4G Production has been here for 14 months. Says, John and Arlene, congrats on impending baby dragon, thank you. The Office, great analogy, Adrienne. Wish it was not a reality that so many Americans have lost their way and have made MAGA the way they want to live. I'm depressed and sad. What person would want this man to sexually abuse their loved ones? Dude has shown who he is over and over, believe him. Yeah, 100%, I agree. Willie Gus, been here for 26 months, says CNN only has the capacity to mimic Fox, and they didn't just start last night. Yukon Man's been here for 20 months. Says, John, how about naming your kid Karen, kind of like a boy named Sue, grow up tough? No, but thank you. I want her to be tough. I don't want her to have to be that tough. Anyway, Skittlebutt Dragon Rasp has been here for 29 months. Says, woo woo, almost 2.5 years of Dragon Daddy and crew. Thank you so much. Luddite has been here for 11 months, says, apparently I've been here longer than I thought. Hopefully the weekend brings better news. I mean, look, there has been good news already. Like the town hall was terrible. We should all recognize that, but he owes millions of dollars to E. Jean Carroll. He has been officially identified as a sexual predator. I don't know if in a civil lawsuit, maybe Adrienne can answer this. Does he have to register with like a sex offender list? I assume not, but I like the idea. No, you don't for the civil stuff?
No.
Am I wrong to say he's been officially labeled a sexual predator? Can I say that?
I think you can say that without a doubt. That would not be defamatory. It would be accurate enough for sure.
Thank you. So from now on, when I say it, I will be able to say I have consulted with counsel and they have told me that I can do it. Anyway, Jasper Katz has been here for 12 months. Congrats on the full year. Pickle Hippie's been here for 30 months. Thank you so much. Okay. Whoa, Hunger Games says another Norfolk train derailment 20 miles from East Palestine. It was only carrying soybeans and paraffin wax. I haven't seen that. Thank you for updating us on that. It sounds less devastating. Mo Boogie has been here for 23 months, says thanks, John. No, thank you, Mo Boogie. Thank you for being here. Irish Bydragon's been here for 23 months, says the previous owner of CNN, Zucker, admitted he messed up by giving Trump so many hours of free coverage, basically handing him 2016. If I remember correctly, the current owner is far more conservative, that's true, and may end up gifting either Trump or DeSantis a victory on purpose. I don't think may end up doing that. I think that's what they're actively trying to do. We'll see if they are successful. Because they can promote a product as much as they want. When the product is obviously rancid, it is a little bit difficult. But we'll see. He's still polling incredibly competitive against Biden. In a recent poll, he was beating Biden. DeSantis was as well, but Trump was even more. So everyone, maybe start to do some early planning for the possibility of Trump being president once again. And not just as a result of murdering Congress, maybe legitimately being voted into office. Anyway, there's a lot of super chats here as well as new members. We're definitely gonna get to your comments, including Molly Sturdivant, thank you for being here. But we got more news, don't go anywhere. Okay, we are going to drastically mix things up and talk about some other topics that I believe Adrienne is gonna find quite interesting. So why don't we jump into that? The constant legal and judicial back and forth over whether any individual living in any particular area in America will have access to medication abortion is not done yet. And the next judge who is set to hear a case having to do with medication abortion is a real doozy. So hold on to your butts as you find out about James Ho, who along with two other conservative judges will hear a case on May 17th. We're 6 days out from it at this point. Ho is the Federalist Society MAGA darling of Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, who's written very aggressive opinions, including one from 2019 in which he said that, quote, abortion is the immoral, tragic, and violent taking of innocent human life, which, bear in mind, I'm not a lawyer. I've never been to law school. I wouldn't have made it through, but I feel like that is not legal language. I feel like that's moralistic, ethical language. That's philosophical language, but he's writing it as if it is legally grounded. He, by the way, of course, was put on the bench by Donald Trump back in 2017. In 2019, he said that a trial judge's ruling, which struck down a 15-week abortion ban and which was affirmed by the Fifth Circuit under the then standing Roe precedent, displayed, quote, an alarming disrespect for the millions of Americans who believe that babies deserve legal protection during pregnancy as well as after birth, and that abortion is the immoral, tragic, and violent taking of innocent human life. We're gonna add one more ingredient into this vile stew. When he was sworn in, it apparently happened in this, to put up this picture, this incredibly fancy library owned by Harlan Crow. So that's fun. Oh, Ted Cruz was there. So overall, a great guy. Adrienne, what do you make of this? Do you have any expectations for what this panel of three conservatives is gonna do?
I think we're going to see exactly what we have seen from these panel of conservatives that Trump had put in place throughout our judiciary. Is we're going to see uneducated, uninformed decision making that doesn't rely on the law or maintaining precedent or any kind of truly intellectual, in-depth analysis, but largely is looking to bolster Christian fascism. This ideology that we should allow these Christian biblical principles to be the law. And that's not what they are put on this court to do at all. The separation of church and state, it's as though that was a suggestion as opposed to a mandate. And that is clearly not the case based on our government. But these individuals who are out there are looking to make that the lay of the land, or the law of the land, shall we say. But we know there are no laws other than those in the Bible for them.
I wanted to ask you more generally about some of the recent judicial opinions on medication abortion. So you have what appear to me to be a series of people who are technically judges, but clearly want to be either religious leaders or perhaps hosts of shows on The Blaze or Alex Jones's network. When you pluck a particular medication that was approved years and years and years ago, that is available in the vast majority of the countries on earth, and then say, no, I don't think it should be used. Like, I'm not familiar with this ever happening before. Have you seen anything like this?
No, generally you're not supposed to interject your own personal ideology or philosophy. You're supposed to abide by the law, back up the science. When you are working in law, what you do is essentially you end up putting on a bunch of different hats. You learn all of the information by researching and reading the data. You don't just read the arguments that are made, but you ensure that you are applying facts. You apply the law to the facts. And in this situation, what these conservative judges are doing is skewing the facts. They are completely and totally, to some extent, ignoring them, creating their own idea as a set of facts, and then trying to claim, well, hey, we can't do this with the law because the law says that under these set of newfound facts that we're not supposed to uphold this medication. They're just completely making up the facts.
Yeah. Yeah, and ignoring, I think, convenient facts or inconvenient facts as well. So here's one. 2/3 of Americans say that mifepristone, I always have trouble saying that. I'm not a lawyer, I'm also not a doctor, although I have watched many episodes of House, say that it should remain on the market. Only 24% of Americans say that it shouldn't. Some of them might claim that the reason that they want it taken off is because they don't think it's safe, but let's be clear, they don't care. They just want it gone. They don't care if it's safe, they don't want it to be used. But why am I listing a poll of what people think, as if we live in a democracy or something? Here are some truly terrible facts. Since Roe v. Wade was destroyed, according to the National Abortion Federation, we found a sharp increase in violence directed against abortion providers and patients. Now, this isn't super new. There had been, terrorist attacks on these places for a long time, but apparently it has gone up quite a bit. A 9-fold increase in reported cases of stalking, a doubling of burglaries, and a 29% increase in assaults and batteries between 2021 to 2022. Bomb threats have increased by 133%. Obstruction has risen more than 5-fold. And again, it's like, this is like a slightly more policy-centric version of what Trump did with his white supremacist rhetoric, the racist things that he would say, anti-Semitic, all that. It's not like these things were new in American politics. They've been around longer than America has been around. But when you have incredibly powerful people tell you, no, this is good, this should not be hidden, this should be out there, you are better if you're this way, well, then you're gonna find a lot of people being more aggressive. And so millions of conservatives have been told, no, we're probably done with abortion as a country. We're wrapping up the last few states that still allow it. And so they feel emboldened to go and attack people. And so I don't know, you hate to see it, obviously, Adrienne, but what do you make of what we're seeing?
This is par for the course, in a situation like this where you have the right making up these quote unquote facts about abortion and riling up their base who think that their way has to be the way. And you just end up in situations like this. But the thing is that I expect to see more reporting on is the murder and assaults on women who can't access abortion and their partners do not want to have the responsibility of a child. There's gonna be considerable violence against those women in the coming years. So it's just gonna be violence, all around violence, simply because individuals can't allow women and birthing people to control their bodies.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I hope that we do. We'll see. The media has talked a lot about abortion since Roe v. Wade was destroyed, or the leak came out, implied that it would, but we'll see. That's gonna require a commitment to taking stories that might initially start off as just local and making sure that people know about them. Also, we're going to eventually have to make sure that we cover when the state begins to execute women for and birthing people for having abortions. They are gearing up in multiple states to make that a criminal offense. They're going to be locking people up. They're going to be executing them. That's the pro-life country that we're moving towards. In any event, we have a couple of other stories, including updates on George Santos. That's who I know him as. You might know him by a different name, but in any event, we know that he's in trouble, and we're going to give you some more details on that after this. Okay, everybody, let's get into some of your comments. First of all, there's been a lot of gifting going on. Tyler Hackner gifted a membership on YouTube. Thank you for that. Beach Dragon gifted 20 memberships. Hail Beach Dragon, that was really nice of you. Thank you so much. Lisa Dodson gifted a membership as well. Kide gifted 5 memberships. This is fairly unprecedented gifting going on YouTube. Love the YouTube community, the Twitch community. Thank you to both of you. George Santos's Evidence Emporium alleged, welcome to Tier 1 membership. Glad to have you here. I love that name. Okay, hold on. We had a comment from May Money in the Building, member for 28 months. It says, John, I send JR a package and there's a card that only you will love in it. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thank you. I promise just try not to eat it. My name guesses: Alina, Alita, Atalia, Selena. I like the names Mana and Mai and May. So I did propose Selena. My wife thought it was too on the nose, I think, so we decided not to go in that direction. I will say I loved Alita Battle Angel. I had not thought of Alita. I'm gonna think about it a little bit. Anyway, I do like that name. Great role model. Anyway, with that, anything for Selena. Yes, Muad'Dib, thank you. Yeah, come on, what's wrong with Selena? It's been a long time. You can use it as a name. It's an ode. Anyway, more comments. Arthur Ashbrook sent a super chat saying, I have a question. Trump was found guilty of sexual abuse, but they said it wasn't rape. How can you be sexually abused and not be considered rape? Well, look, that depends. I mean, Adrienne, feel free to jump in. Obviously, you're the lawyer.
Yeah, I can tell you how it's structured. It doesn't mean that it's not rape in the context that you and I speak in just general colloquial terms. Yes, violating someone's body in that sexual way would be considered a rape. It's how it's considered in the New York statute, in the laws itself. And so they consider rape to be penetration involving a member or something that is a sexual genital organ, whereas sexual abuse is something that can include things like maybe your hands, using digital penetration, or maybe even if you were to use some kind of object. So that's where the difference is there.
So, but she did allege that he did do that. Does this imply that they didn't accept that part?
No, what she did is she testified that she knew he put his fingers inside of her, so the digital penetration, but she wasn't quite sure if he had put his member inside of her too. And so that's also why it's kind of a little snicker at him, because it's the thought of, if a woman couldn't tell the difference between your fingers or your penis being inside of her, it tells you, that whole tiny mushroom thing is probably an accurate statement.
Yeah. It is weird to think that might have potentially saved him being formally branded a rapist.
True.
Thank you for clarifying that. That is actually really helpful. Okay, Shannon Price says, hi, John. First time I've been able to join live in a while, and it's my birthday. So glad I can share it. Shannon, happy birthday to you. Okay, Paul says, never seen her before in my life. Immediately continues to recount entire story of the assault. Yeah, and knows every fact about her that has ever, like, he knows her. He knows her. Anyway, by the way, he said that he had almost never gone into that store. You've probably seen going around on Twitter. There was this video he did for The Apprentice where he was like talking glowingly about that store and all that. Again, it's all lies. It's all lies. Jamal says CNN has officially sold out beyond intolerable, and it will not be trusted after last night's disastrous riffraff. TDR just bringing the heat. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we only have 9 seconds. Okay, there's a lot more comments to get to, and we will, but we also have news to get to, so buckle up. Okay, everyone, let's start off with this.
Are you planning on running for re-election?
Yes, I am.
And why should anybody believe you now?
Well, like I said, I will prove myself innocent and then we'll move from there. And re-election is a very far time away from now.
So George Santos, after turning himself in, facing 13 charges, which we will recount, assures us that he will be running for re-election. I think it's more likely that he will just run. I think at any moment, I think he might just start running and reinvent himself somewhere off in the hinterlands. Anyway, he pleaded not guilty yesterday to 13 federal criminal charges. He was released on a $500,000 bond. I assume, Adrienne, that represents that the court considers him to be a fairly serious flight risk, which I think is putting it lightly.
Yes, because generally, if you are a significant public figure, they will release you on your own recognizance, thinking that, hey, you're not going to necessarily go anywhere. We know where you are. There's always cameras following you, but that tells you that the court is like, no dice, bruh. We know you could be Dr. Richard Kimball in a whole 5 seconds. You will be the fugitive. Give me your passport. You're going to have to stay here.
Yeah, and by the way, I would go over the check for that 500,000 a couple times, considering who we're talking about here. Anyway, he was charged for a lot of stuff. I don't know if we have time to go through all of it. Alleged wire fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, lying to Congress, which they all do, but he's being charged for. Anyway, 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, 2 counts of making materially false statements to the US House. And that's just the crimes that George Santos is accused of doing. Wait until we get into Anthony DeValder and Katana Revanche and all of that. It stacks up. Anyway, he allegedly executed a scheme, according to the indictment, to quote, defraud supporters of his candidacy for the House by inducing supporters to donate to a company, quote, under the false pretense that the money would be used to support Santos's candidacy. Instead, the money was used on personal expenses, including luxury designer clothing and credit card payments per the indictment. And look, I will say, I usually take at face value these sorts of statements about allegations of criminality, but in this case, I have to say that I think I'm on his side, because they're saying he raised hundreds of thousands of dollars and then used it to buy luxury designer clothing. As we can tell from that video, he has been wearing the same shirt and sweater combo since he was sworn in. Where is all of that clothing that he bought? Maybe he defrauded the department stores, I don't know. But anyway, these are serious charges. They are quite believable charges, I will say, Adrienne. That is my amateur approach to this. What do you make of what he is being alleged to have done?
I think it sounds consistent with what we know of Mr. Santos, DeValder, so on and so forth. This isn't really shocking. The man has lied and lied and lied some more. And so it's really weird how he seems to be so indignant about his innocence when he got into his position lying, and he's shown us nothing other than being a lie. So I don't get it, but yeah, the charges seem on point.
Yeah, he's calling it a witch hunt. Like, ha 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 ha. I see what you're doing there. Like I really don't know to what extent he realizes the way he is perceived. Like he has had, like Trump has no shame, but I would say that George Santos is on a similar level of, if it was me, if I was George Santos, you would never see me in public again. Like I would find a way to never be seen, but he keeps going out there despite all that he's facing. And by the way, George Santos is not just facing those 13 charges. There's also other investigations that are going on. Actually, here's a staffer of his. Take a look at this.
Your testimony to the FBI was that you had been inappropriately touched by the congressman. Is that true?
That is correct, and I think we can see that play out as well. The ethics committee, of course, is still looking into that, and now they've got a whole nother ball game that they have to look into. The speaker is not going to have a choice now but to address these allegations and these criminal charges when they are handed down tomorrow. A lot of people have asked me today, since this news broke, is the congressman going to resign? And the reality is that he's not going to resign, Chris, because he can't afford to resign. The man has no money elsewhere.
And that is a whole nother thing that they're going to be looking into, the possibility that he inappropriately touched this person. I don't have any additional knowledge about the allegations, but he's facing that. We also, Adrienne, have one more bit of news that I believe just broke this morning. We'll see what ends up happening with it. But prosecutors have proposed a deal apparently in which Santos would pay a fine to the state of Rio de Janeiro and reimburse the fraud victim. Remember in his like check fraud thing that he did down in Rio, for the full amount he stole, adjusted for inflation, and the embattled lawmaker is expected to appear before a Brazilian judge at a video hearing. So that's a whole nother separate thing that he's being investigated for. So there's a lot going on.
Yes, and something that I think would be very novel and could actually be very successful is I would wage a defense of some kind of mental infirmity, because as you mentioned, the level of shamelessness, it's not normal. It's not kind of like Donald Trump where he tries to amplify it. You can kind of tell that he knows what the truth is. DeVolder is committed and devoted. And as much as there probably hasn't been that much success in saying, I'm a wild raging narcissist, and that's why, I should be getting a pass here. I think to some extent you could show that this goes to the level of this man having no idea that he should not be acting this way. But yeah, it could be interesting, but I would try to essentially push the case law because I really think that's the only thing that could save Santos.
Yeah, that is fascinating because look, I'm not apparently at this point I'm not anything. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Although I did pursue political psychology, so maybe there's something there. If you can react to all of this just so damning information coming out about you and have no affect whatsoever, appear to not care at all, then you really do have to question, is that why he did it in the first place? Like when you find out that a person has defrauded veterans by fraudulently raising money intended for dog cancer treatment and then you steal it, that is arguably more evil than anything Cruella de Vil was made to do. You can't really be right in your mind. There is clearly something wrong with George Santos. Now that doesn't mean that he's not responsible for what he does, obviously. He's a full-grown man. But it really does make you wonder if the reaction is why he did it in the first place. Any final thoughts?
No, I agree with you. He seems very similar to the gentleman who ran that whole fire festival situation. And so I think that he is a threat to society. And so I really find this will be interesting, essentially what the punishment that he gets is, because again, he should not be among us. He's a dangerous person as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and argue at least now also a danger to himself in all.
Exactly, but there will be a great Netflix special. So just letting you know, there will be a real good Netflix special. It's a matter of who's going to play him, which I think
who you got.
You need to do a poll on that. I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to look around just a little bit. We'll see.
I've seen John Lovitz has done a pretty good George Santos. I personally think that Bowen Yang does a really good George Santos. I could see that. I'm not sure. But if anyone has any ideas in the chat, give us a good one and you might earn a Blue Apron gift card. Anyway, with all that said, that is all the time we unfortunately have for the first hour of the show. But there is a lot more to come in the aftermath, including Fox being sued again, more lawsuits against them. Tommy Tuberville defending white nationalists in the military, and finally some people fighting back against deep fakes, both in like portraying someone as being neuter in sexual activity, as well as in politics. Both of those big topics, so you're not going to want to miss it. With that said, thank you everyone watching on the linear platforms, listening on the podcast. For the rest of you, we will see you in just a few. Welcome back to the Aftermath, everybody. We've got some news. We've also got some Adrienne. Adrienne is here as well. Thank you, Adrienne, for sticking around. I want to run some names past you, and you tell me if they would be good to play George Santos. Rob Schneider.
Okay.
Trey Field says Matt Damon. You had thought Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could see Matt Damon, but I don't know if he'd be willing to put on the weight for it, but I think he might be able to do this.
Jamie says, guys, just imagine Pedro Pascal as Santos.
Jesus.
Why Pedro Pascal?
Oh my
I think
God.
he would do a good job, but why would it be him?
But could you hate him? And I don't know if I could hate him, but it would show significant range if he could do that.
It would. Aquafina, come on. Tom Hardy. Okay, let's see. Serious ones though. Jason Alexander. I could maybe see a Jason Alexander. I think that could be good. Joaquin Phoenix, good actor, I suppose.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito. I'd go for that. Oh, Fred Armisen. Beardface McGee says Fred Armisen. I think Fred Armisen probably could do a pretty good George Santos. Well, perhaps we'll see. Anyway, but don't sleep on Bowen Yang. Very funny. Anyway, with that said, Jasper Katz says George Santos is actually 56 lemurs in a trench coat. He wishes at this point. Okay, finally, one or two comments. I saw Fidel Castor Oil says, John, I recommend you give your child a person name as opposed to a baby name because they will likely grow up. Hey, these are serious names I'm considering, everyone. Anyway, with that said, Pawn's Gambit says Paul Giamatti should play George Santos. Why? Because Paul can play anyone, including John. How awesome would it be if we'd come back from the break and it was Paul Giamatti instead of me? I can take the day off. Anyway, Gail says, I should play George Santos. I am 53, a woman, and I look as much like a George Santos as he does. Well, for all we know, Gail Hefner is George Santos with another alias. Anyway, with that said, we do have important news to get to everyone, so brace yourself as we launch into this.
Fox News launched overly personalized, false, and incendiary coverage of me, mainstreaming online conspiracy theories to tens of millions of Americans. They lied about my role.
Was hired to police domestic social media use, period.
Is now the administration's official purveyor of truth.
I quickly started receiving violent threats as a result of this coverage. I was weeks away from becoming a mom. Fox didn't seem to mind.
They did not mind at all. That was Nina Jankowicz, former disinformation chief under the Biden administration, eventually left the administration in no small part because of all of the chaos that you just saw from Fox News, hyper focusing on her specifically. To the extent that, according to the complaint that she's filed, and she is suing Fox, as you can see in that, over the course of 8 months in 2022, they talked about her more than 300 times. That is, granted, it's a 24-hour-a-day news network. That is a level of focus. I'm not even sure if they talked about AOC 300 times in 8 months. I don't know if they talked about Hunter, well, probably Hunter Biden. But other than that, Hunter Biden and Nina Jankowicz, that is pretty much it in terms of a hyper focus. And I'm gonna give you a little bit more from the lawsuit. Says to bolster its fabricated bullying narrative of Jankowicz, Fox falsely claimed that Jankowicz intended to censor American speech, was fired from her position with the federal government, and wanted to give verified Twitter users, including herself, the power to edit others' tweets. That is the sort of just utter nonsense that only a person who only watches Fox News could believe. It was the idea that verified people will have power over everyone. Like, who could possibly believe that? And when I say that, I don't just mean in the comment section or whatever, who could possibly believe that? What host could plausibly make the case that they believe that that is true? And of course, this is a defamation lawsuit. And so, look, the onus is definitely on her, unfortunately, to have to prove that they all knew that what they were spreading was false news, that they knew that they were defaming her. We've just sort of gotten out of a cycle of this with Dominion lawsuit, or with Dominion. But so it's gonna be difficult for her, but they really did focus on her a lot. I fully believe that she has received a ton of violent threats and all of that, Adrienne. What do you make of what you're seeing?
You know what? I think that they targeted her for harassment without question. And the thing is them being a news outlet, they're probably going to argue that she is a public figure, which she may qualify as a quasi-public figure by virtue of what her position was. But still, they have to show that they lied and also acted maliciously under the standard. I think that that's going to be difficult for her, and that Fox News is going to continue to push and push and push. But I'm sure she is in a favorable court of law in terms of jurisdictional. So I think she could win, but also then it becomes an issue of damages. How much are you going to be able to show? Because that's what we saw with Dominion voting. The fact that Fox News held out so long is because they're like, yeah, show that you could actually show that you lost whatever $1 billion. And that was something that Dominion voting couldn't necessarily do, which is why it accepted less. And so how much she's gonna be able to show at the end of the day, it's gonna be clear to me that it may not be worth the fight, but I'm glad she's still fighting.
Yeah, and the difficult thing too is we've seen in a number of cases they'll choose to elevate this person that none of these conservatives would otherwise have ever heard about. They will hyper focus on them, they will lie about them, they will dispatch their goons, and then Fox will move on, but the goons don't. Like there have been independent journalists that have been attacked by Fox that Fox doesn't talk about anymore, but they still get doxxed to this day. The crazies that are unleashed on them become utterly obsessed. And so the damage doesn't go away just when the coverage goes away. I mean, let alone the damage to your career, like you've had to move on from the White House and all that. But even the stalking and the death threats and the fear of harassment to you, to your family members, to your loved ones still continues. It doesn't mean that, it shouldn't be difficult to prove or whatever, and it certainly will be difficult to prove, but you have to feel for the people who are, unjustly focused on in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the mental health aspects of it. People don't talk about that a lot. But once you've been subject to any kind of scandal out in the public world, the thing is nobody prepares you for it, and how it really crushes you mentally, the depression, the anxiety, all of it that you get hit with. That's something that can take years off your life. I personally know that myself. And yeah, when you come out of it finally, it does put you in a different disposition to where you are more resilient in a way, but at the same time, it can take years psychologically to rebound from that. But unfortunately, because our society does not see the true value of having sustained, healthy mental health, it's not gonna economically reward that loss of those years trying to overcome what Fox News has really created.
Yeah, and the fear I think is that, like you said, can you hold out? Can you pay to hold out? Like that video that you saw was part of a fundraising thing, and it kind of needs to be, because how can you possibly hold out against the legal might and the ability to delay things of Fox and drag it out and all that? It's like a question of how you value getting justice for the abuse that you've already suffered versus the additional abuse that you'll get if you continue with it. So it's very difficult. In any event, we're gonna move on to a very different topic in just a sec. But first, Gamer Haas, subscribe with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you for that. Glad to have you here. Savage Bear, member for 6 months, says GOP going after Dems. We must uphold law and order. GOP being prosecuted. Witch hunt. Yeah, look, the 13 charges are a lot for any one person to face. But I would guess represent just a tiny fraction of what he probably deserves to be facing for all he's alleged to have done. By the way, I think it was Dragonpool that suggested Harvey Guillen is the obvious choice to play Santos. I will say, I think Harvey Guillen is hilarious on What We Do with the Shadows. The one time I think I saw Harvey Guillen do Santos, I did not like it as much as some other people's Santos. I don't think maybe there have been other iterations, but I'm still pulling for either Bowen Yang or Jason Alexander as a dark horse. Anyway, with that said, why don't we move on to something definitely interesting. Senator Tommy Tuberville has said that people who can be identified as white extremists, white nationalists, should still be allowed to serve in the armed forces of the United States. He was speaking to a radio station. Here is the argument that he made.
We are losing in the military so fast, our readiness in terms of recruitment. And why? I can tell you why. Because the Democrats are attacking our military, saying we need to get out the white extremists, the white nationalists, people that don't believe in our agenda as his Joe Biden agenda. They're destroying it.
You mentioned the Biden administration trying to prevent white nationalists from being in the military. Do you believe they should allow white nationalists in the military?
Well, they call them that. I call them Americans.
Okay, so to be very clear, he was asked a direct question. Do you believe they should be allowed in the military? And he said, I call them Americans. And I mentioned that because a spokesperson for him says, in response to the, I think, utter horror at him saying that we should allow these people in the military, Senator Tuberville's quote that is cited shows that he was being skeptical of the notion that there are white nationalists in the military. Not that he believes they should be in the military. The senator resents the implication that the people in our military are anything but patriots and heroes. Now, the first part is BS. There is no way to read what he said as meaning what his spokesperson says that he said. That's simply not what he said. However, I do accept the second part of his statement. I do accept that Senator Tommy Tuberville believes that white nationalists and white extremists are patriots and heroes because he thinks that people who are so deluded by the intoxicating effects of their own privilege, the racism that they support, that they want to see in politics, he sees them as patriots. He sees that as being consistent with being a hero. I think he's insane to think that, but that is what he thinks. He is a senator and has power over the military. Adrienne, what do you think?
I think that this is utterly terrifying. It's not that we didn't think that he would support white nationalism at the end of the day, but just to be so blatant about it. And basically, I'd say he practically doubled down on it. It's the thought that, hey, we can go ahead and give these neo-Nazi adjacent white nationalists, give them weapons, put them in charge of the safety and also kind of the defense of the United States. And that's perfectly fine. Well, we know that their mindset is not one of any kind of objectivity or diligence to our nation, because what they are doing is bowing at the totem pole of white supremacy, at the throne of this ideology that is dangerous and also that practices nothing but exclusion. I just don't understand this thought that they're going to be sane individuals as opposed to carry out an agenda that's harmful for the vast majority of people in this world.
Yeah, and look, I think it's totally appropriate to be worried about what they would do in those positions. There's already reason to believe that right wingers might be using their position in the intelligence services just to opportunistically leak stuff, not to make sure that citizens know what's going on, but to hurt a Democratic administration or whatever, which we can adjudicate on a case-by-case basis, but that does appear to be happening. But even perhaps more importantly, it has been very clear in their communications in these organizations that they are going into the military to gain training and expertise and then leave it and then do whatever it is that they're going to do. And imagine, like, Tuberville is so like obviously lying. We need him. We were having trouble. And so I guess we have to do what we have to do. Like, if you're having trouble with like getting prison guards, you don't hire tigers. Like, I don't care about your desperation at that point. You still need people who are qualified for the job and are not clearly there to get a lunch. But in any event, it is very easy, I think, for Tommy Tuberville to say that people who have been identified as white extremists, white nationalists, like, what does that even mean? I mean, come on. Do we believe that if he found out from secret communiques from BLM headquarters that they were enlisting 5,000 black extremists, black nationalists, that he would be like, well, it's not my ideology, but we need people in the military. What are you gonna do? I guess it's cool. Does anyone think that that would be his response if they were any other kind of extremist? Well, Antifa is showing a lot of interest in joining the Marines. I guess we gotta let them in. Does anyone think that that would be his response, Adrienne?
No, it would not be his response at all. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he would be completely opposed to any other group who had a nationalist sentiment being in a position where they are infiltrating the military. The thing that really gets me, though, is that we know that white nationalism and white supremacists have been pretty much, you could almost say, kind of, they've really been the foundation of US policing systems. So the thought that, well, let's also make sure that that is completely and totally solidified in the military, it's really disgusting. And also too, I remember how there was that hearing before Congress about white supremacy in the military and how the Republicans and GOP were like, no, this isn't an issue. How dare you? You say it's going woke. And clearly Tuberville's out here saying, yeah, it's great.
By the way, like everything that you said is true. The idea that we're having trouble with recruitment, which appears to be true. And so like they just get to make up why that is. It's the wokeness. It's them damn pregnant women in the Air Force or what. How about this? How about you go talk to people about why they don't want to join the military? I think you might learn something. It's possible that people have grown up having experienced decades of American soldiers being thrown into pointless meat grinders of wars and then come back, receive no aid, their pay is terrible, the healthcare is not there. Maybe there are incredibly understandable reasons that some people don't want to join the military anymore. Maybe that's part of it. Or maybe it's just the wokeness, I don't know. It's the damn CRT in the Coast Guard. I don't know, maybe it's that, who's to say? I'm not a colonel, in addition to all the other things I'm not. Anyway, with that said, why don't we move on to our last topic? We are running low on time. There's a lot of concern out there about deep fakes, about AI generated art of a variety of forms. And we already know some forms that takes place on the internet. There is deep fake pornography, which is the vast majority of the case, non-consensual sexual depictions of people, as well as the new influx of this sort of deep faked art being put into political advertisements. Now, there's been a lot of talk about taking this seriously. One state, Minnesota, is taking it seriously. It was a nearly unanimous vote in their Senate in which they passed a bill that is going to criminalize people who non-consensually share deep fake sexual images of others and people who share deep fakes to hurt a political candidate or influence an election. The bill would allow prosecutors to charge people with up to 5 years in prison and $10,000 in fines for disseminating deep fakes. To become law, the bill must still go through a conference committee and get signed by Democratic Governor Tim Walz. That seems likely at this point, although don't take anything for granted. And bear in mind, we've already seen a ton of this. There are websites where there's tons of this sort of pornography that has already been available for years at this point. And in politics, just in January, I guess it was, President Joe Biden was on video talking about tanks. Some people doctored that to make it look like he was giving a speech that attacked transgender people. There was also that ad from the RNC attacking Joe Biden and Kamala Harris with faked images and fake news reporting and all of that. So this is not purely hypothetical, it's already out there. One state wants to do something about it. Adrienne, what do you make of it?
I think this is fantastic. They're getting out ahead of things, even though this stuff has been around for a long time, but knowing that there is a bigger push and also that more apps are making it accessible to a wider range of people and the technology is getting better. I really do appreciate them taking this step in advance, being somewhat proactive, knowing that AI is going to be used to wreak havoc on people's lives. And if you don't set up the penalties in advance and also enable law enforcement so that they have the resources necessary to actually pursue any kind of charges against individuals who are out there pushing out deep fakes, then what you're going to signal to other people is that that's okay. And so we need more like this.
Yeah, and both areas are so important. I mean, obviously, this sort of like faked non-consensual pornography is just devastating, obviously, for celebrities, for individuals. It has up until recently been somewhat complicated to make, but I think the expectation is that AI is going to make it trivial in the near future. So definitely something needs to be done about that. When it comes to politics, we have just started to see the beginning of it. I mean, obviously, we have fake news; those are sort of like faked articles, fake news sources, but being able to plausibly, realistically change what someone says on video, we have just seen the beginning of the damage that is going to be done from that. And you have to have laws, obviously, but even with the laws, I mean, so much of this is going to be spread. I wonder about the ability to track it all down, and it will be consumed so readily. No critical thought, no fact checking, and when the videos are fact checked afterward, like if you clarify that he was talking about tanks, not about transgender people, maybe 1 in 1,000 of the people who saw the original video will see the correction, and even they won't accept that it was fake to begin with. And so we're at the precipice of a really dangerous time for American society and American politics. Adrienne, I'm really worried. We're gonna see it in this election, and it's gonna be consequential.
I agree. I think it's going to come to a point where people are not going to be able to trust what they're reading or seeing. Well, you already can't trust what you really read, but also what you're seeing. And so we're going to hit a particular point where people realize, hey, I just can't trust this, so I'm not going to make a decision either way. But I can see it being extremely harmful, and people are going to weaponize it against other people, because this can throw you off if you are maybe competing with another colleague for a particular raise or something like that. And one colleague decides, hey, I'm gonna make an AI video that is unsavory about this person. And then the controversy, and all of a sudden that person's out of the running. I really see people doing all sorts of disgusting things so that they can come up.
Yeah, it could be something sexual. It could just be you on video bad mouthing the company or something like that. This could be used in a ton of different ways. I mean, everyone watching this needs to be ready. You are gonna see a video come out of Biden, maybe it'll probably be Biden first, but eventually Bernie Sanders and AOC and Ilhan Omar. And it'll be them saying something that they obviously didn't say. It will be obvious that it's fake. And you will hear right wingers referencing it, regardless of how many times it's fact checked, for years. They're gonna make something of Ilhan Omar. Oh my God, are they gonna target her as well? And you are gonna have to be playing defense on that for a very long time. So everyone needs to gird yourself against the AI wars to come. With that said, unfortunately, we are out of time for our show. Special thanks to Adrienne Lawrence for joining us on the program today. Where can people see more of your work?
Check me out on Rebel HQ. Also, I'm occasionally on Twitter, or what's left of it, at Adrienne Law, but sometimes on Instagram at Adrienne Lawrence.
I prefer that to the Twitter. I honestly do not spend much time on Twitter. Have you gotten an invite to Blue Sky yet?
I haven't gotten an invite. I definitely cultivate my Twitter just for like breaking really good videos and things like that. But otherwise, I've kind of pulled away from most social media now.
I kind of have too. I've just been too busy recently, honestly. So I understand that. But thank you for making time for us, at least. We can be your social network.
Thank you kindly.
And for all of you out there in the audience, thank you for joining us. As always, tomorrow is going to be garbage day. If you would head over to the community tab of our YouTube page, you can vote in the community garbage person of the week poll. By the way, I've been doing special videos for Instagram Reels and for generally these go up on TikTok. So tiktok.com/thedamagereport for my reaction to the garbage people of the week. And for now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.